Hi, I'm Dr. Annie. Join me for a 5-minute pelvic floor flow. You'll need a yoga block and Pilates ball if you have them. If not, that's okay, and you can modify it without these tools. Starting off, we're going to lay down in a comfortable position. If you have a ball, you can place it between the knees. You could also use a pillow. We're going to focus on our breath to connect deep into our pelvic floor and our core system. Here I'm showing as you inhale, you want to think about expanding through the entire core canister. You should feel your ribs widening in 360 degrees and a gentle softening down into your sits bones. You can use your hands to get feedback on how everything is softening through the abdominal wall. Now we're going to focus on connecting with these muscles on the exhale. As you exhale, you can gently hug the abdominal wall in and a gentle squeeze of the pelvic floor. We don't want to be focusing on just tightening around the tailbone. The ball can give you some feedback to be able to connect with the muscles just underneath the pubic bone. So as you exhale, gently squeeze the ball together. You should feel a tightening in between your hip bones, and the lower belly gently tightens. Now we're going to add in some glute activation. So you'll lift up into a bridge and alternate lifting one foot up at a time, making sure that the pelvis stays nice and level. This tells you that you're using your deep abdominal muscles optimally, which in turn helps strengthen and coordinate our pelvic floor. Try and perform this as you exhale, feeling your abs kicking on before you even lift the pelvis up. If you're feeling wobbly with this, keep your pelvis down on the floor and just perform little mini marches, offloading one foot at a time, making sure you feel that gentle tightening through the lower abdomen without clenching the upper abs. If you're feeling any pressure into the pelvic floor, you might be bearing down, which is going to cause some heaviness. If you're feeling that, go back to the beginning of this video and just focus on the breath work before adding any movement. Now we're going to flip over into hands and knees. If you have a ball or something that you can gently squeeze, place it between your knees, and then we'll get into this position where your knees are right underneath your hips, hands and wrists underneath the shoulders. You're going to exhale, feel a gentle connection through that lower core, and then pressing through your hands and the tips of your toes to hover the knees just a few inches off the ground. This is one that you want to make sure that you have that pre-brace where you feel the lower core kicking on before lifting up off the floor. We shouldn't feel like the abdominal wall is pushing out towards the floor. It should be hugging up to the center of our body. Make sure you're breathing here. This is a really common one that we hold our breath in. So being really mindful of blowing out like you're blowing out through a straw as you press and hold. I like to reset in between each round until you get more comfortable with this and can hold for longer durations. Now we're going to move on to adding some oblique work and glutes. This is going to help strengthen our entire core canister and our pelvic floor. Going up into a side plank on the knees and forearms, you're going to extend the top leg back and kicking it up at an angle, almost like a diagonal, to kick on the back of the hip. Making sure we're still breathing here. And then we'll flip over to the other side, stacking the hips, keeping ribcage pelvis in alignment, and feeling the back of the hip kicking on. Both sides of the hips are working here. And you can use your hands to check in to make sure that you're actually feeling the glutes and not the hip flexors. Now we're going to be focusing on releasing any tension. Relaxation of the pelvic floor is just as important as activation. We can't have a strong pelvic floor if we're gripping it. Using a yoga block or a pillow underneath your pelvis can give you some gentle feedback to be able to breathe into that space. You can either have your arms stretched out over your head or resting your head on your forearms. In this position, you're focused on breathing deep into the pelvis, thinking expanding into the tailbone, as well as the mid-back. Each inhale, you should feel a gentle softening like you're melting into the floor below you and not trying to clench or grip anything. Then adding in some spinal mobility. Cat-cow is a great way to work on segmental mobility of the spine, as well as release tension through the tailbone. Thinking moving each segment up and down. Now we'll add some hip circles where you put pressure all the way into one leg, looping back and forth, almost like you're making a U with your hips. If you feel a sticky spot, you can spend a little extra time feeling just that gentle release in the back of the hip as you rock back and forth. We're going to finish with some breath work in a butterfly position. If you have yoga blocks or pillows, you can place them on the outside of the knees to give you some support so that you can really relax and not use any muscles to hold yourself up in this position. Going back to that breath work, thinking inhaling, releasing the abdominal wall, breathing deep into the pelvic floor, and breathing all the way around the lower ribs. Checking in with your jaw, making sure we're not clenching. This 5-minute pelvic floor flow is a great way to start connecting in with your pelvic floor and gain some mobility throughout the day. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining.